fiends, welcome once again to another edition of the Ministry of Horror. I'm your host, as per usual, Tez, and we are going out live on twitch.tv/Tezzius, T-E-Z-Z-I-U-S. We're back. It's a slightly earlier stream this week for the show. I'm off to London tomorrow to visit my girlfriend. She's working in London for a big event for her work. So I'm going to go up there tomorrow, stay in a nice a super nice hotel, and then we're going to go see a West End show on Saturday. And I'm going to get to go to Forbidden Planet, which will be a lot of fun because I'm getting back into my graphic novels. I'm getting back into them, swings and roundabouts with me when it comes to graphic novels. I'm going to see if there's any cool horror ones that I can pick up, any Marvel or... I was going to say Marvel or DC events, but I've always kind of preferred Marvel events and DC singular hero stories. I don't know why that is. I think that's probably because I've had more of an affinity growing up with Marvel heroes. Like Marvel is always, there's the X-Men, Spider-Man. They were like the main ones because obviously the cartoon series of both. And then, other ones around that, there's the connection with the films that have introduced me to more of these characters or given me a bit more of an introduction than I probably had to, characters like Iron Man. Never had an interest in the cartoon growing up. Thought the cartoon was pretty poor. But anyway, but with DC, it was basically Batman. To an extent, Superman. I read a few Superman comics growing up, but it was really Batman. He was the main one. So whenever I have read DC events, they've generally been pretty good. Like Darkest Night, I think I've read. Problem for me is a lot of the other heroes I either don't know or I've got a vague understanding of who they are, and I've just got no interest in following up on any of their stories, like Hawkman, Hawkgirl. There's that other one where it's a scientist and a boy got melded together and they both have the same conscious in one body, which I just thought, no, not for me. So I may look for some Batman graphic novels, I may look for some Marvel event graphic novels, or, X-Men, Spider-Man, that sort of thing. Let's have a look. We've got a few people in the chat. We've got Gruff in the chat. We've got Fran the Can chat. Fran said, what show? What show? I don't know. It's a surprise for me. I know Victoria knows because her work have sorted it as a reward for her for all her ridiculously intense amount of work that she's been putting on, like basically organising this event single-handedly. It's insane. So I don't know what show it is we're seeing. Gruff in the chat. Speaking of, has anyone seen X-Men 97? I've still not watched it, but here it's very good. Yes, it is very good. Very good. The first episode is a bit... It's okay. The first episode is okay. I think it's because the first episode of the original run of the X-Men cartoon series, I was never that fussed with because I get the importance of the Sentinel characters, but I've always found them quite boring. I don't know if it's the design of them. I've never really liked the design of the Sentinel characters. I've always found them as enemies boring, even though the whole story behind them and what they represent and everything isn't boring. As characters, I've always been like, meh. But no, the series is really good. It's quite shocking. It's quite dark in places. There's a bit of a horror-tinged episode. There's some cool returns. I won't say anything. There's also some, shocking moments. And things adapted from the comics that hadn't been adapted before in the prior run. So it's pretty good. And Gruff says that I do need to watch Invincible on Prime. It's still on my to-watch list. Francis, skip the US stuff. Pick up some Judge Dredd with the Dark Judges. Yeah, I've got the Case Files Volume 3 somewhere, and I think that's got Necropolis in it, or it's got the introduction of Judge Death, that's the Dark Judge that, well, he is the main Dark Judge, of course, but that's the reason that I've read Judge Dredd, because I've always thought Judge Death is so cool, and the Dark Judges are so cool. Will we ever get to see them in a film? I don't know. It always seems like when they go to do a Judge Dredd film, Well, we'll build up. We'll build up to doing the Dark Judges. We won't do Dark Judges straight away. Well, yeah, but if you play too cautiously, then you may not get a sequel, which is what's happened twice now. So we may never get to see the Dark Judges. I think that would be badass. Hey, Eddie the Beast is in the chat as well. Hey, Eddie, how's it going? Yes, I do need to watch Invincible. I have, though, been watching some TV, some horror TV. I'm about 5 episodes now into Them the Scare, the sequel series to Them on Prime. It is pretty good. It didn't take me a while to get into it. It's just one of those things where the first episode was good, but then life gets in the way, other things are occurring, and I just found it difficult to get time to put it on and sit down and engage with it. Last couple of nights I've been able to watch a few episodes now. I knew that I wouldn't be able to finish it in time to review it for this week's show, but maybe next week, if not the week after. We will get around to doing a review of it, but I'm enjoying it so far. It is quite dark, although what happened at the end of episode 5, I'm thinking, so what's now causing these horribly contorted deaths? I assumed it was one thing, but now I'm not so sure. Pretty good stuff so far. The victims get all sort of like, it's like kind of like a contortionist version of the Ring deaths, where people get scared to death. Not so much saying that's what's happened to them, but in terms of the appearance, the bodies found in the Ring, and probably more so exaggerated in the Ring remake, were all kind of like terrified grimaces on their faces. Well, this is like that, but all their bones are broken. It's gnarly. It's horrible. But I've watched that, or watched half of that. In terms of that, I have been able to catch up on a couple of other films. I had a really interesting email today. Potentially getting to go to another advanced screening in London. I got the invite to declare interest, so I have declared interest. We shall wait and see. I won't say anything until the time of reviewing it or going to review it. But yeah, pretty exciting about that one. Pretty exciting. But who knows? We have to wait and see. Nothing is as certain until I get the yes all sorted. But in regards to the show, we've done a couple of little gaming streams recently, little bits here and there. So if people haven't watched those, they're available on twitch.tv/tezzelliott on the VODs. I picked up on the PlayStation sale recently a couple of super cheap games. So I went on to see what was going on PlayStation sale. I went to the cheap section because if I'm going to buy a game, then it's either payday or it's, what's cheap. And more so recently, it's like, what's cheap? And I had a look around and I saw they had the chart on there, which I've been looking at on Amazon for a little while because it's normally fairly cheap on there. Probably a reason for that. And that was £4 something. And also Resident Evil 0 was £3 something. So all in all, I spent about £8.40 for 2 games. Not bad. Me likes to sniff out a deal, as is evident by all my retro console buying, which I did think was finished. But a channel that I follow on Instagram, they're called DK Oldies. It's a store in Pennsylvania, in America, and they sell retro video games. And it's just like a nice hit of nostalgia because they get these orders, and if you put your order number in on a comment, then your order may be filmed, and he basically does people's orders. So I go around the store and pick up various retro games, and then based on what they've ordered, he will normally throw in a free gift. But it's just one of those kind of, I guess, visual ASMR, whatever the equivalent of that is. They keep showing Dreamcasts on there, and I did have a Dreamcast at one point very briefly. Again, it's one of those consoles that I had for a sparing moment, secondhand, then sold it secondhand because I wasn't playing it. I mean, I probably need to actually play the games that I do own on the retro consoles I do own, which is predominantly Vice City on PS2. I need to start getting some time for that. Buffy the Vampire Slayer on the Xbox original. And I haven't got Wind Waker yet, but I should focus on one game at a time. Otherwise, I'll go into this sequence that I do at times. But no, anyway, long and short of it, we've done a couple of game streams. We've played some of the chant. I see why it was quite cheap all the time. I see why it was especially cheap on the sales. You know, the graphics are okay, the movements are okay. It is incredibly basic. It is basically go here, read this, go here, fight this, swipe, one hit swipe. There's not much to it. So I think whether we'll stick with it, I don't know. It's not bad. I've played much worse games, but who knows? I think what I might do the next time I do a game stream, which will be some point next week, I'm hoping. If we do it with the Ministry of Dogs again, it will be Resident Evil 0. Never played it. I do love the Resident Evil games. So keen to give that one a go. But we're going to do not a massive show tonight. We don't have a featured presentation. I just haven't got anything prepared. We're going to do a couple of reviews. As I say, I'm away tomorrow in London, so I'm going to try and wrap things up fairly promptly this evening so I can then edit it and get it uploaded on YouTube and podcast platforms tonight ahead of tomorrow. So, because basically once I finish work tomorrow, I've got to be out the door, getting a taxi, heading, straight down to London. Not via taxi, via train. Anyway, what we have to review today is two films. One of them is recently dropped on Paramount Plus called 8 Found Dead. And the other one is one which comes... Oh, for flip's sake, I should have had the email ready so I can give the correct... there we go. The other one comes to UK Digital on the 3rd of June. So, ooh, it's an advanced one. Aren't I a lucky boy? And that is New Life. We'll be talking about that. That's appeared in the news a little bit recently. We'll talk about that at the end of the show. But, yeah, first up. I don't know why my... Whoops. That was my little music thing that does the jingle. Play the jingles. Oh my god. Where has it gone? Fallen behind. Oh my goodness me. That was traumatic. People don't know what's going on. People are just watching later on or listening on audio. My Stream Deck just suddenly fell away. Doesn't even seem to be working. Oh, my Stream Deck is not working. Well, we need it for the jingle. It's on. That's weird. I'll fill up some more time. So we haven't got around to doing the retro gaming setup or anything yet. We will do. That's strange. Okay. This is very weird. Apologies for all the dead air, but I don't know why my Stream Deck isn't working. I would say I'll just unplug it, plug it back in, but all the USB plugs are right at the back of the system. At least my power's not cut off. No, thank God. Can I not just do it from the software? Action, play, stop. You'd think that I could literally just play it from the actual software. Good Lord. Yeah, that's where the file is. Oh, wait a minute. No. Oh dear. Okay, maybe we can't have the jingle. Maybe we can't have the jingle. Jesus Christ, this thing. Okay, well, can I just find where I've actually got the jingle saved? Maybe that'll work. Maybe that'll work. What's it called? Okay, anyway, yeah, retro gaming. The retro gaming. We'll get around to that. I think the main thing for me to focus on is I've got an accountancy exam next week, which is ideally the final accountancy exam for a while. The final accountancy exam for this qualification. So once that's out the way, I can then sort of focus on things outside of Ministry of Horror. Right, let's have a look in this folder. I've got quiz music. I've got intros. I've got credits. Where the hell would I have saved the news music? No. Soundboard. No. Okay. I think we're going to have to just use our imagination. God, this is annoying. I wonder if I can reset my soundboard while doing the show. Do you know what? Okay, we're not having the MOS news music because this is just irritating me now to no end. Devices. Firmware version, no device found. Okay. Right. Anyway, let's just jump into the news. This is the news. This is all this news comes from bloodydisgusting.com. John Squires. God, this has really thrown me out. Normally I just have a touch of a button and I've got music, but no, not today. In the wake of Rob Zombie's direct-to-video movie The Munsters back in 2022, we reviewed that car crash. Universal has now announced 1313, a brand new small-screen reboot of the iconic television series. Developed and produced by James Wan's company Atomic Monster, the new Universal horror series is set to be a reimagining of the 1964 classic sitcom The Munsters that lives and breathes within the Universal Monsterverse. Lindsay Anderson Beer will serve as the showrunner for 1313. The title is, of course, a reference to the Monsters' family address, 1313 Mockingbird Lane. Deadline notes in their report, the project is being developed by James Wan, Beer, and Ingrid Bisu for UCP. Atomic Monster and LAB Brew are the production companies. Executive producers are Lindsay Anderson Beer and James Wan, Michael Clear and Rob Hackett for Atomic Monster. Ingrid Bisu is a co-exec producer of the upcoming series. If you want to revisit the original series, The Munsters is streaming on Peacock. That series ran for just 2 seasons between 1964 and 1966, spawning several feature films and a sequel television series titled The Munsters Today from 88 to 91. More recently, Brian Fuller's Mockingbird Lane reimagined the series for NBC but never made it past a pilot episode. While various actors have played the roles across the decades, the core of The Munsters has largely remained the same, with the various shows and movies documenting the wacky lives of the lovable family of monsters. What does a dark reimagining entail, you ask? We expect to find out more. Stay tuned. Well, the only thing that I can say with Rob Zombie's Rob Zombie's version of the monsters was the only positive I can say about Rob Zombie's version of the monsters was, surprisingly for Rob Zombie, it was trying to keep the tone of wackiness and silliness and overtly kind of slapstick mannerisms that were a hallmark of the monsters. You know, the monsters, when I think of the old TV series, and we had the old TV series here on BBC Two, something like that. You know, reruns. Obviously, I'm not that old when it came out. I wasn't alive when it came out. But we had the reruns, and British TV would always show that, but it didn't necessarily show the Addams Family. Like, I remember the Addams Family cartoon, I remember the Addams Family films, but I don't remember the Addams Family TV series. And the only reason I mention that is because those two are sort of the opposing spooky families. But with the monsters, it feels if you're going to do a version of it, you would do a version of the characters as they are, and a dark reimagining, going for more, I suppose, horror. It doesn't really necessarily fit the aesthetic. Like, the whole thing with that family is it's a family of universal monsters, vampire, werewolf, Frankenstein's monster, whatever the mother is. Is she a vampire as well? And then the cousin, who's a regular girl. And we didn't have the cousin, I don't think, in the Rob Zombie film. It just it seemed a bit. It seems if you take an approach of a dark reimagining, does that take the charm away from the monsters? I don't know, probably. But then again, they may well have looked at Rob Zombie's monsters and gone, this is a flaming dumpster fire. We have to do something. The Universal Monsterverse has just unfortunately kind of been dying on its arse for a long, long time. It's a real shame. I mean, I thought Renfield was fun. I thought Abigail, which apparently is part of the Monsterverse, was really good. Do I see a place in the modern world for the monsters? I'm not so sure. There should be, but I don't know. I don't know. Next up in the news, it's already happening. We talked on the previous episode about the Jason universe and whatever that means. Well, with those video game news, Jason Voorhees is slashing his way onto WB video game multiverses. It's part of the multiverse, people. This is John Squatter's write-up. Just days after the announcement of the Jason universe, which promised upcoming video games and more as part of a whole new era for the Jason Voorhees character, it's kept saying about activations, new activations. Whatever that means. A new trailer for the relaunch of Multiverses this morning has confirmed Jason is coming to the game. WB Games and Player First Games will release Multiverses on May 28th, with the video game uniting pop culture icons from the Warner Brothers brand. That includes Stripe from Gremlins and Jason Voorhees himself, whose movie rights are under the WB New Line umbrella. Watch the official Multiverses launch trailer below for the Jason reveal. Jason's addition to Multiverses is a pretty big deal, as it wasn't all that long ago that the Friday the 13th franchise's rights issues spelled the end of his own video game. Now that all the rights holders are working together, this is only the beginning of the character's big return. Multiverses is a free-to-play platform fighter with an ever-expanding cast of iconic characters and legendary universes, various online modes, in-game events, ongoing content-filled seasons, and more. Multiverses will be available as a free download for PS5, PS4, Xbox Series, Xbox One, and PC via Steam and Epic Games Store, with full cross-play and cross-progression support. As for the Jason universe, that's promising activations spanning a wide range of platforms from entertainment, games, immersive experiences, merchandise, and more to be announced throughout 2024. TV series is also in the works, but no movie at this time. Yeah. It's a very cartoony aesthetic. Very cartoony, especially on Jason. The other characters seem to be more faithful representation of their cartoon origins. You got Velma, you got the kid from Adventure Time, There's Joker, I can see in one of these images. There's Morty from Rick and Morty. And then you've got this uber cartoony Jason Voorhees. I mean, it's not a game I could ever see myself playing. But, yeah, well, there you go. Have a quick look at what's popping in the chat. Fran, I've never been excited by the Addams Family or the Munsters. Yeah, Addams Family, like I say, I remember the films. I thought the cartoon series was decent when I was growing up, but that's a similar sort of series to, like, you know, Animaniacs, Freakazoid, and Beetlejuice. You know, I like those sort of Saturday morning cartoons. Fran and Gruff are going to the Comic-Con, London Comic-Con the weekend. Looks pretty cool. Gruff says, "What a load of crap! I just wanted a good new slasher film with Jason, nothing more." It's been a long time, hasn't it, since we've got a Jason film. Like, I really enjoyed the remake. Some people are pretty down on the remake, requel, reboot, whatever. I quite enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. Next up in the news, Dexter Original Sin. Christian Slater starring in prequel series. Originally announced as Dexter Origins, Showtime's prequel series is now titled Dexter Original Sin, and The Hollywood Reporter brings us the first casting news today. Christian Slater, Patrick Gibson, and Molly Brown will star in the upcoming series, which is a prequel to Dexter. Patrick Gibson will be playing the young version of Michael C. Hall's Dexter Morgan. Dexter Original Sin is set in 1991 Miami and revolves around Dexter as he goes from student to avenging serial killer. With guidance from his father, Harry, played by Slater, Dexter adopts a code designed to help him find and kill people without being discovered by law enforcement at the same time as he begins a forensic internship at the Miami Metro Police Department. Dexter showrunner Clyde Phillips will also be showrunning the prequel series. Executive producers for Dexter Original Sin include Phillips, Michael C. Hall, Scott Reynolds, Mary Leah Sutton, Tony Hernandez, Lily Burns, Robert Lloyd Lewis, and Michael Lemon. Okay, so the Dexter Return that came out last year, was it? It was last year, maybe the year before. Dexter, was it called Cold Blood or something? Something cold. It was set in a cold area. That was all right. That was I thought kind of decent. It wasn't amazing, but from what I understand, it was a bit of a return to form. It's I used to enjoy Dexter. I thought series 1 and 2 were excellent. I really do need to do a rewatch of it at some point. Series 3 I wasn't too fussed with. I can't remember too much about it, but Series 4 I thought was some of the best creepy television I've seen. I really enjoyed Series 4. I thought John Lithgow was incredible. I hadn't seen him play that sort of character before. Really, really good. But from there, it had started to have a bit of a slow to a faster decline. Series 5 I thought was alright. Series 6, which I think was it Colin Hanks? I think Colin Hanks was Series 6. I thought that was an okay season, I should say. But then the following season, just the quality for me dropped drastically. It felt like there were different people working on it behind the scenes, and I never finished it. I always heard about how bad Dexter got by the very end. I heard what happened, but it just, from what I heard, it tailed off completely. The sequel series, I thought, okay, it was all right. I thought his son was a bit annoying in places, but you know, you have to have the broody son that's almost following the father's footsteps. It's a bit of a cliche storyline, but it was all right. Eddie in the chat, horror films come out with more sequels, so who knows what comes next. That's very true. Fran, I was just going to ask if Slater was playing the dad, so clearly that casting isn't bad. Gruff, I saw all the original Dexter seasons and enjoyed most of them. Good show overall, but never saw the return show. Fran, same. I was fine with how it originally ended. Return show isn't, you know, the return show isn't bad. It's recently dropped on Paramount Plus. If anyone has that, give that a watch. Do I want to see the prequels? I mean, maybe. Maybe. I'm not adverse to it. We got some flashbacks to Dexter as a youngster, which was just Michael C. Hall in a wig, uh, which didn't look great. But yeah, we shall see. Next up, Terrifier 3. Makeup effects legend Tom Savini will appear in the slasher sequel. This is again John Squires. Art the Clown is making his return to theatres nationwide with Terrifier 3 on October 11th, and Bloody Disgusting can confirm that a horror legend has joined the slasher sequel. Makeup effects master Tom Savini will be making an appearance in director Damien Leone's Terrifier 3, which Cineverse and Bloody Disgusting are bringing to the big screen. Tom Savini's work has long been a huge source of inspiration for Leone, whose Terrifier movies are of course loaded with the kind of practical effects-driven brutality that Savini helped pioneer. From the very first arrival of Jason Voorhees on screen in the original Friday the 13th, to the splatter effects in horror classics including Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead, Savini is one of the all-time great masters in the world of special makeup effects, elevating the art of horror movie gore and paving the way for all the carnage candy you love in the Terrifier movies. Savini is, of course, also no stranger to the world of acting, making memorable appearances in films including Dawn of the Dead, From Dusk Till Dawn, Planet Terror, and Machete. Stay tuned for more on Terrifier 3 in the coming months. So, yes, Tom Savini is going to be appearing in Terrifier 3. Oh, I am hyped for this. I never thought I'd say I'm hyped for an Art the Clown film, but I just think it's going to be ridiculous. And I will probably be seeing it by myself because it traumatized my girlfriend. So yeah, there we go. No boyfriend points earned with that one. Next up, Stone Age Lovecraftian strategy game The Tribe Must Survive is out on early access. Frank Cannon asks if Tom Savini will have a crotch pistol in this. I mean, God, who knows? Who knows? That would be quite the homage. The big day has, so this is a Mike Wilson write-up. The big day has finally arrived for developer Walker Tree Games and the Tribe Must Survive. Jesus Christ, I can't read. After 3 months of intense tribal tinkering and an insightful journey, the Lovecraftian strategy game is now out of early access and launched in full on Steam and Epic Games Store. To celebrate the official launch, the Tribe Must Survive is currently enjoying a 20% discount. Alongside the expected fixes and balancing, the 1.0 release of The Tribe Must Survive has added major new features to the game. 3 progression systems, introducing transformative events for radically different runs, deepening tribe build options for 17 new spiritual upgrades, new ending cinematic for those that manage to survive all 100 days. In The Tribe Must Survive, players are transported to a Lovecraftian Stone Age where survival is not only a test of skill but a journey to the unknown. The game has been meticulously crafted for players to experience that seamlessly blends strategy, survival, and the eerie allure of Lovecraftian horror. There's no single way to survive, and each tribe will have different advantages and troubles for the player to solve, driven by the tribe members' behaviours. Okay. Lovecraftian horror games could be interesting, and this looks like more of a kind of tribe-based strategy game, maybe. I don't know why, but the initial artwork reminds me of this PC game, which I had a demo of, and I always used to enjoy playing. And you would control, and when I'm saying PC game, I'm talking PC in like 1998, like maybe 2000, probably more around 2000, 2001. PC game where you had a tribe, and I think it was a precursor to a game called Black and White. One of those games that I always wanted to play more of, but I was never very good at, and also I only had the demo. I'll have to look into that at some point. Let's have a quick look at the chat. Eddie the Beast, another Terrifier. Oh god, that clown's the stupidest killer clown ever. Gruff saying about the crotch pistol. Fran, yeah, I ended up rewatching it recently because I've been watching the TV show. How is the TV show From Dusk Till Dawn? I've seen the first season and it was decent, but I never finished it. Such is life. Let's move on. So a new demo is now available for psychological horror game Mouthwashing. Mike Wilson write-up. From those who've been waiting for a chance to dive deeper into Wrong Organ's surreal psychological horror title, Mouthwashing, you now have your chance with a brand new demo. This coincides with the announcement that Wrong Organ has teamed up with publisher Critical Reflex to release Mouthwashing, though no release date has been announced as of yet. Mouthwashing isn't the only indie horror title that's now under the Critical Reflex banner, which will publish the titles under the CR Channel Publishing label. The collection of titles includes Mike Klubnika's Buckshot Roulette, free found footage horror game Teleforum, and 3 upcoming titles: Horror Sim Regular Home Renovation Simulator, Horror Fishing Adventure Drowned Lake, and Surreal Hand-Painted Adventure Flawless Abbey. From the team that brought you the indie pescatarian darling How Fish is Made, Mouthwashing Jesus Christ. Mouthwashing centres on the crew of Pony Express's interplanetary freighter Tulpa. When the freighter goes off course, its 5 crew members find themselves stranded with a diminishing supply of resources. Faced with the threat of starvation and the crippling isolation that comes with being stranded, the crew must fight back paranoia and hallucinations as they come to realise the question is not whether they will survive, but when they will perish and who will be responsible. And then finally, in the news, we are blitzing through this. We're on top of things for a change, even if the sound isn't working. Rumour. Capcom planning a Resident Evil remake for series' 30th anniversary. Resident Evil 9 reveal coming soon. Mike Wilson. Right up. With Resident Evil Village and... I don't know why these headphones are really hurting my ears today. With Resident Evil Village and Resident Evil 4 Remake claiming many a wallet last year, you knew that the rumours of Capcom's next remake of a Resident Evil game would eventually return to the one that started it all. That's in addition to rumours for the next entry in the series, which multiple insiders have claimed is close to being announced. As with all of these rumours, one has to take these with the usual hefty grain of salt. The latest rumours for the next remake come from ex-user Alarabia, which have been corroborated to some extent by industry insider Daniel RPK on his Patreon, as well as YouTuber Biohazard Declassified. The rumours revolve around Capcom supposedly planning a remake of the original Resident Evil for 2026, which would coincide with the franchise's 30th anniversary. According to Biohazard Declassified, they had received an email from an old contact with knowledge of the remake going as far back as early 2023. According to their insider, the RE remake will be slower paced, similar to the remake of Resident Evil 2. Furthermore, the zombies will each have their own unique model due to the small number of enemies within the game. They will also be tougher, requiring more bullets to put down. This new remake will also borrow from the 2002 remake with the return of the fan favourite, or not, Crimson Head enemy, as well as use of the over-the-shoulder camera from the other recent remakes. Meanwhile, the 9th entry has its own set of rumours, which also include input from longtime industry insider Dusk Golem. According to Pre-Alarabia's source, the new game will centre around Leon Kennedy in the game's introduction, which will take place in Southeast Asia in the summer of 2025. Note the specificity, as according to the source, the character may change with the passage of events. This potential change is also acknowledged by Dusk Golem, who says that this information comes from 2021, and notably after the November 2020 security data incident that saw Capcom hit with a ransomware attack. Dusk Golem goes on to say that Capcom potentially could reveal Resident Evil 9 this summer, with the game releasing in January 2025. However, the supposed release date is not set in stone, as RE9 could also see a release in 2026. Obviously, Capcom is remaining tight-lipped about anything related to Resident Evil at the moment, but with the 2024 edition of the Summer Game Fest being right around the corner, we could have our answers to some of these rumours very, very soon. So, I'm conflicted about the Resident Evil original potential remake, because we did have a remake. It's quite old now, but the remake was really, really good. It's incredible. And applying the RE2 model, which has worked really well for Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, and then obviously different sort of version of it. I don't know all the ins and outs of video game engines, but the engine used for Resident Evil 4 remake, how that would work in the Spencer Mansion. Probably very well. And I imagine the game would be incredible, look incredible, very, very scary. But the fan in me wants Code Veronica. Like, I used to love that game on, I think it must have been it's either PS2 or N64 that I had it on. I want to say PS2. I'm pretty sure it was PS2 that I had it. And it was incredible. Like, I hated the backtracking to go back to different areas to get different items and all that stuff. Like, that did my head in. But that's Resident Evil. But it had a really good story. It had some great locations. And I was very enthused to pick up a cheap copy of it like a couple of years ago. Last year, maybe, or just the year before that. Before realising that I hate tank controls and I can't jump back into that style of gameplay. So I would love for there to be a remake of Code Veronica. I think it is a really overlooked entry in the series. And I do think that the Resident Evil remake still holds up incredibly well. It's still right up there. Fran says, why not Resident Evil 6? Isn't that the most loved? I mean, Resident Evil 6 was fine in small doses. It just wasn't really a proper game. It was just a collection of short games, really. You know, it was, yeah, it was a game. I wouldn't mind a remake of Resident Evil 5, but again, it just doesn't feel like it's that old. I mean, again, it's probably been almost, 20 odd years or something. It's been a while since Resident Evil 5 came out. Probably not 20 years. I can't remember. It was on the 360, but I just feel Code Veronica needs a remake. I think it really does. I don't know. Will we see it? Maybe one day. I mean, the remakes have done incredibly well, as far as I know. Fran says, I had Umbrella Chronicles. That was tricky for a light gun shooter. And Gruff says, Code Veronica was fun. I had it on the Dreamcast. Steve Burnside, though, yeah, he was a bit of a chode, wasn't he? So, that is it for the news. That was the news. Stupid soundbox doesn't work. Gruff, I enjoyed the 3DS Resi game. Can't remember what it's called, though. Is that Revelations? Was that 3DS? Don't know. I haven't played any on the 3DS, so I couldn't say. We're going to jump into our reviews now. And we're going to start off with one I watched a couple of nights ago on Paramount Plus. And that is called 8 Found Dead. 8 Found Dead's a 2022 American horror film directed by Travis Green, starring Ali Trasher, Alicia Soper, William Gabriel Greer, Eddie Acosta, Rosanna Lemires, Tim Simek, and Nancy Laneham Charles. So the tagline says "Fuck who done it." It's who survives. This is a film really of two halves. Like I started thinking, like 20 minutes into this, that I'd really dislike it because, again, we're introduced to characters and one of them is a really vapid influencer. It's, oh my god. We've got these characters who are heading up to this Airbnb house in like I'll just say the desert. I don't know where. There's these friends getting together to hang out over the weekend, but they're all traveling up at different times. It's a couple of couples and then one individual woman. But the film jumps around the narrative of what has occurred when. Because when one group of these people arrive, one of the couples arrive at the house, there's an older couple that are already there that they don't know. And the dialogue between them and this older couple is a bit odd. They seem a little bit standoffish. The woman in the older couple seems a little bit overtly flirty at times, and some of the things they say is a little bit overtly sexual at times, which catches these couples off guard. But in amongst this, we're then switching to police going around the house finding different bodies. And when they found a body, it then cuts back to what happened to that person, what led to their death. So we don't exactly know the order, although we do establish that as the film goes on, and we establish who's doing the killing, or whom is doing the killing. And actually, this does turn into quite a fun little slasher film. There's a few moments of genuine menace. Like, it's never scary, but there's a couple of decent slasher moments of characters being chased with axes. It's not overtly gory, really. There's not a huge amount of blood in it. There's a couple of violent stab scenes, but it's actually pretty fun. It's one of those films where I would just say, if 15-20 minutes in you're thinking, oh, this seems really wank, stick with it, because actually it's not that wank. It seems like it would be wank to begin with, but it's actually not that wank. In terms of the performances, no one's particularly bad. I mean, the woman who plays the influencer, I can't remember any of that. I don't recognize any of these actresses. They don't have Wikipedia pages that I can hover over to go to their page. But the influencer one, she's not great. But then the girlfriend of the other couple was actually pretty good and had quite a good performance. I think the police officers were pretty funny, and I think that was intentionally. It's not really sort of played for laughs, but just some of the commentary was actually quite funny between them. It's the standouts have to be, I believe, can't really tell. Actually, let's go to the IMDb page. That might be more helpful. So the standouts would probably have to be Nancy Lynham Charles as Patty, who was just brilliant, and oh, here it is, Tim Simek, who played Richard. He's been in some stuff. Oh, he was in What's Eating Gilbert Grape. I've definitely seen him in other things since then. Various things. Anyway, he is brilliant. He's really quite menacing as Richard in this film. Definitely worth a watch. Yeah, like I think the only negative is just initially some of the characters seem really unlikable. And I never really like that trope of having a horror film filled with unlikable characters, because then you end up rooting for the killer, and that just seems counterintuitive. Like, I get why that happens, that a horror film becomes the point when it's just about the kills as opposed to the story. Fine, whatever, not my sort of thing. But this is just a fun little slasher. 7 out of 10. It's not amazing. I just feel that if I gave it any lower, it would kind of just sour what was actually quite a fun experience. I just have to reiterate, stick with it. Stick with it against what you may feel as a bit of a crap film. It's not. 7 out of 10 for 8 Found Dead. And finally, on this super condensed show, my God, I got to watch a film called New Life. New Life, which I believe holds a Rotten Tomatoes score of like 93%, which is very good. This is releasing on June 3rd in the UK. I think I've got that date right. June 3rd, bosh. Look at that, I know what I'm doing. It's directed and written by John Rossman, stars Sonia Walger, Hayley Erin, and Tony Amendola. It's a horror thriller. The plot is a mysterious woman on the run, and the resourceful fixer assigned to bring her in. They're two unique stories, inextricably linked, as the stakes of the pursuit rise to apocalyptic proportions. So, it's a film focusing on two different characters. One is the hunted, and one is the hunter. But it is set in quite a modern world. You know, there's nothing post-apocalyptic about this, and for some reason I thought this was a sci-fi film, but it isn't really. It's incredibly grounded. But one woman is hiding from everyone and everything, on the run, trying to just get away. That's played by Hayley Erin, Jessica Murdoch. We don't entirely know why and what she is running from. At the same point, Elsa Gray, played by Sonia Walger, has been enlisted, kind of like an agent, like a bounty hunter almost, to hunt down Jessica. But she doesn't really know why. She doesn't know exactly what's going on. Now, at the same time as this is occurring, Elsa Gray is starting to develop the early symptoms of, I believe it is ALS, like a degenerative illness, which is affecting her mobility. It's affecting her hand. She's seeing the early signs of it, and she is getting a bit worried and trying to keep things to herself or just to a core minimum group of people around her. But she's wondering why she's been enlisted onto this mission and why it's so top secret, and, you know, why her. To kind of go too much into what exactly is going on and why this is a horror would be going into spoiler territory. Essentially, this is an hour and 25 minutes, so it's a pretty lean film, but we only really get the horror elements and the story starts unfolding around the 45-50 minute mark. That isn't to say this is a slow burn, but it feels more like a drama with thriller elements to begin with. There's a moment where Jessica has not really hitchhiked. She's hidden on the back of a pickup truck to get out of a town, and ends up trying to steal some tinned food from an outhouse owned by this older chap. What's his name? Frank and his wife. But Frank catches her at gunpoint, I believe, and ends up just kind of, he realizes her situation. She's got a black eye. She's clearly not a threat. Invites her in to have a proper meal with him and his wife. And so initially you're kind of thinking this is a situation where he's going to be a bit of a wrong-un, or she's going to violently kill him to get away. But no, actually, they're just trying to help her. They're trying to help out a girl who's in a tough spot, but they don't really know exactly what's going on. That comes into play quite interestingly later on in the film, but again, I'm not going to touch on to spoilers with this film. It's just a new film. I think the performances in this were all really stand out. Jessica, Hayley Erin as Jessica, you just feel her plight because she does not know what is going on. As the film is progressing, things are occurring around her that don't make sense. And why she's being pursued, or there's a reason she thinks she's being pursued, which isn't necessarily why she is actually being pursued, lead her to just sort of be in such a perilous position where her sanity seems to be starting to wane a bit. And at the same point, Elsa Gray is encountering these scenarios as she's following Jessica and starting to ask the questions of, like, what on earth is going on? What have I been signed up for? You know, give me some information now. And that's when we then start getting into her performance again. The two leads in this, I do think, were really, really good. And it's from that point when the answers start coming that we start delving into a bit of the horror. And the horror moments are done pretty well in this. It's not an out-and-out horror. This is very much a thriller with horror tones. But the presentation of those moments is really well done. And really quite freaky as well. I have to admit that it's another film that when I'd started it and saw, it's quite a small cast. We know my feelings on those sorts of films. I don't know why. Well, I do know why, and we've talked about it before. The period of pandemic films, that it was incredibly clear why there was only a small cast. Shouldn't automatically be a death knell. But I would check the trailer out for this to see if it feels like it's your sort of thing, because I found it incredibly gripping. I really found it incredibly gripping. I've not seen the leads in anything else, I don't believe. Let's just have a quick look at Sonia Walger. She's a British actress. She was in Coupling. I think I may have seen an episode of that. She was also in Lost. Penny. Oh shit, she was Penny in Lost. Oh, okay. I do remember that. I do remember Penny to an extent. I can't remember what happened to her, but she's in Flash Forward, Common Law, a few other things. And let's just have a quick look at Jessica. Jessica Murdoch, played by Hayley Erin. So she played a teenager in The Young and the Restless. She also played someone in General Hospital. She's in Pretty Little Liars, The Perfectionist. She guest starred in Malcolm in the Middle. Oh, there you go. NCIS, Modern Family. So she's got a bit of a TV career. Melissa and Joey, The Glades. There we go. But, maybe this could be a bit of a standout performance for her, because I think she did incredibly well in this. I don't really have any negatives to say for New Life. It's an incredibly well-made film. I'm assuming because it's coming out in digital, I don't think it's getting a cinema release in the UK, as far as I'm aware. But if you like a good thriller, a good, neat, succinct, compact thriller with horror elements, it's definitely one worth a watch. Like, I'm going to give New Life 8 out of 10. It kept my interest. The story progressed at a good pace. It didn't go how I was expecting it to go based on the tone of the first half of the film. And the ending as well, I didn't necessarily see it developing in that direction. Just when you think it's going one way and a certain character is in the position that they're in and that's it, it goes somewhere else. So I really actually quite enjoyed New Life. Yeah, definitely one to keep an eye out for. I'm going to give New Life 8 out of 10, guys. Right, that is it for another edition of the Ministry of Horror. Thank you very much for watching this on twitch.tv/tezzelliott if you're watching it live. If not, catch up on YouTube. This will be going out on YouTube hopefully tonight. Podcast platforms also. I may schedule it for tomorrow just for, ease, whatever. It'll be going out there. There's then going to be a recorded show next week. And then hopefully the week after, if I've had time, we'll do an anime horror episode. I've had a few suggestions. I know that I own Akira. I don't actually know if I still own a copy of Perfect Blue. I have bought it before, but I've probably had to sell it at CEX one month when funds were low and got a good amount for it. But I've got a few suggestions to look at, so maybe there'll be that. Also on the horizon, I've been chatting to a couple of people about a future horror face-off show, the return of a horror face-off show. So watch this space. You'll hear more closer to the time. We'll stick around on live for a couple of minutes, but I've got to do some editing and I've got to go check on the dog. So there's no watch parties anymore, boo-hoo, but I'll stick around for the chat. Anyway, thank you for watching or listening, Ghouls and Fiends. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff on your platform of choice. Share it around to your horror friends, and I will catch you later.